Hey everyone, what's going on? If you've been fighting your way through Villa Hess and bumping into weird bugs, softlocks, and that one elevator that just loved to say there wasn't enough power when you knew for a fact there was, this is the update you've been waiting for. The devs have pushed out update 1.3.2, and it's a meaty, fix-packed patch that smooths out a bunch of rough edges from launch and clears the path for a lot more players to actually finish their runs. I've spent time combing through what changed, testing the big problem spots people were reporting, and I want to walk you through what's important, what's different, and how you can squeeze the most out of this new build without tripping on any lingering pitfalls. First off, the headline is simple. We're talking over 60 issues addressed, with a focus on progress blockers. That means those soul-crushing moments where you'd make it to a boss or a puzzle, and then the game would hiccup and keep you from moving forward. Those have been the top priority. The patch notes call out multiple softlocks in boss encounters and puzzles, as well as those power mood elevators across the map. The upper wing, warehouse, school, and burial chamber lifts have all been dealt with, plus the passage elevator down to the ancient temple. If one of those stopped your run, this patch should let you hop back in and keep going. Let's talk bosses, because a bunch of you messaged me about fights turning weird in unexpected ways. The Iron Maiden encounter got a whole lot of attention. There were moments where interaction prompts would just not work, or the boss would snap into the wrong animation if you hit it during a roar. That's been fixed. There was also a freeze if you happened to have your inventory open when you scored the final blow and the cutscene kicked in. That got addressed too. Over in the Harvester fight, a nasty softlock has been squashed, and that bizarre instance where a useless harpoon could still be picked up after the fight is gone. Dr. Hertz got some love as well. The game was sometimes putting him into a downstage too early, and the devs added some extra visual sauce to his defeat animation, so it feels cleaner and more intentional. The final showdown had a grab bag of issues, from the boss deciding to stop attacking, to taking damage during an invulnerable phase, to an outright crash if you spammed inputs during cutscenes after the victory. All of that has been cleaned up. It feels like the team chased down every oddity tied to the big set pieces, so you can focus on surviving instead of wondering if you broke the game. If you're a completionist who was agonizing over achievements refusing to pop, you can breathe easier. The patch explicitly calls out fixes for Registry, Master Key, Hoplifile, Serial Killer, Vindication, and Ranger. That's the difference between a clean 100% and a maddening checklist with a couple of stubborn blanks. I've seen confirmations from multiple players that these now unlock properly as long as your save meets the conditions, so if you've been waiting for a reason to grind that last file or combat milestone, this is your green light. Puzzles were another frequent pain point, and there are solid improvements here. The cryptex could hardlock when interacting. That's fixed. The pharmacy fridge puzzle sometimes left Caroline stuck in the environment after completion. Also fixed. And if you remember the Four Horsemen puzzle, misbehaving when you close the interaction window too fast after rotating something, that edge case has been handled alongside a separate interaction softlock tied to it. None of this changes the solutions or the logic of those puzzles. What it does is let the design shine without the friction of, will it let me proceed this time? Which is exactly the kind of patch energy you want a couple of weeks after launch. Traversal and world logic got tightened up as well. Besides the elevators I mentioned earlier, there were a few places where you could wander out of bounds, cemetery grounds and arcade being notable. Those seams have been stitched. The darkness mechanic in the lower wing now triggers as intended, which matters a lot for atmosphere and for the flow of certain encounters. Unlocked doors relocking themselves, looking at your laboratory, should be a thing of the past. And for folks tinkering with movable objects in the kitchen and playground areas, the update fixes the weird loss of control moments there. It's the kind of invisible polish that keeps tension high without cheap surprises from the engine. There's also a round of quality of life fixes tied to input and saves. Keyboard and mouse rebinding should behave correctly now, and the transition between controller type C and KBM no longer borks your aiming. The third and fourth save slots, which weren't working the way they should, have been corrected. That's big for folks who like to keep rotating saves before major boss attempts or puzzle branches, and it's a nice safety net after a patch that touches progression systems. If you're the cautious type, consider cycling those extra slots as you approach any area that used to be problematic pre-patch, just to keep your bases covered. On the visual side, VSync finally behaves the way you expect, which should help with tearing on certain displays. There were also numerous lighting passes across problem rooms, Torture Museum's Judas Cradle interaction, Butcher Shop cellar, the girls' restroom mirror candles, and a cleanup for cases where Caroline disappeared during cutscenes or costumes went missing, like the trench coat after the Iron Maiden fight. Map readability improves a bit too, with missing elevator icons added in reception, and the constellation boards in the cemetery no longer hidden behind their descriptive text. Little annoyances like the ammo count lingering in a quick slot after changing a weapon shortcut are gone. None of this is flashy, but together it makes the game feel more deliberate and less janky from scene to scene. Audio tweaks are sprinkled throughout and make a noticeable difference if you play with headphones. The Shadow's audio that continued after death has been fixed, which used to break immersion during reloads. Several missing SFX have been implemented. The brazen bull, the blood statue, even the bunker elevator doors, and the steam pipe volume has been toned down so it no longer overwhelms the mix. The Classroom 103 teacher breathing SFX looping after the puzzle is solved is corrected, and the Dr. Hertz fight music now loops properly instead of cutting off. It's subtle, but horror lives and dies on audio cues, so these changes are worth calling out. Text and localization got a pass too. Ammo items like gasoline, coil nails, acid test tubes, and powder and shot now clearly say they're ammo, which helps newcomers make sense of the inventory at a glance. A bunch of typos and mismatched lines have been fixed, and missing translations have been filled in various interactions, with credits updated as well. You'll also see corrections for things like the results screen, reporting the wrong number of enemies killed, and specific diary entries getting duplicated or misindexed. Again, it's the quiet stuff that makes a second playthrough feel smoother than the first. Now, I want to flag two special items the devs highlighted during the beta of this patch because they're still worth watching. First, the main cemetery puzzle with the tomb dials sometimes failed to trigger properly after completion. The recommended workaround is simple but important. When you first enter the cemetery area, make a save in the cemetery office. If you run into that bug, reloading from that save tends to clear it. Second, there's a rare case where fuses placed in the school generator room, or even just carried in your inventory from the previous build, can disappear after updating. Some players found that retrieving the fuses and making a save in the earlier build before switching to the new one helps. If you're on PC and really get stuck, the devs are keeping the older build accessible on a public beta branch so you can temporarily roll back, fix your save, and then come forward. It's not ideal, but it's smart triage, and it means a borked file isn't the end of your run. If you do need that rollback route on Steam, here's the gist in plain language. In your library, right-click the game, go to Properties, pick the Betas tab on the left, choose the branch labeled Rollback 1.2.0, and then verify your files under Installed Files. That puts you on the earlier build. Once you've collected what you need or gotten past the offending step, you can jump back to the main branch and verify again. Keep in mind, you don't want to ping-pong versions constantly. Use it as a rescue plan if you've hit one of those rare cases the team is still chasing. Outside of those two watchouts, there's a small list of known issues the studio is still tracking. The end slate at the end of a run might show the wrong counts for health items used or saves made. There's an occasional animation lock when using tank controls and switching from running to the inventory very quickly. A death cutscene for Dr. Hertz is currently rendering in 4.3. The settings menu doesn't upscale to 2K or 4K yet. And a few icon or SFX oddities remain, including elevator alarms persisting if you pause at the wrong moment. There are also some duplicate pickup edge cases for certain diaries, and a lingering incorrect icon for the upgraded shotgun. None of these should ruin a run, but you might notice them. If you do, add your voice to the feedback threads. The team has been updating based on what players are reporting, and that's how we got a patch this comprehensive in the first place. So what does this patch actually mean for the feel of the game? For one, it recenters the experience on tension and resource management instead of wrestling with systems. Those invisible enemies in the computer lab are handled. The nailer actually affects enemies in the south corridor like it's supposed to. The Hawk figurine that could become unobtainable if the safe on the other side got closed incorrectly is now reliably collectible. Small things add up. More reliable weapon swaps after changing controller types, fewer camera quirks in tight spaces like the mass grave on the other side, and a bad ending cutscene with improved brightness so you can actually see what's going on without cranking your display.